At the time I'm recording this, we still don't know who the next president of the United States will be. However, despite that uncertainty, are there things that you should actually be doing in your finances because of what we do know? Actually, yes. I've got 3 of them coming up. My name is Mike Bernard. I am the host of the Wise Money Show. I'm also one of the certified financial planners right here at Korhorn Financial Group. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and smash that thumbs up button. So right now, this is Friday morning, and I still don't know who the president is, the next president of the United States. And you don't either, unless you're watching this at a time when all that drama is behind us. I sure hope so. But as of right now, it sure looks like Joe Biden's going to win the presidential election. There's a narrow and thinner possibility that Donald Trump will be reelected. But it also, even though the Senate race is close, it does look like, not final, but it does look like Senate will stay majority Republican. So even with that level of confidence, not certainty, but confidence that that's how the election's going to be turning out eventually, whenever we get the drama past us, are there things that you should be doing in your finances based on what we currently know? Even though there's a lot still unknown, is there stuff you should be doing in your finances based on what we currently know? The answer is yes. Yes, you should be preparing right now based on what we already know. I've got 3 big ideas right now. The very first one, and I was working with some folks yesterday where we're looking at their multi-year tax situation. We built a multi-year tax projection. I know that sounds terribly geeky, but right now it's near the end. It's the fall of 2020. We can project what your 20 tax return is going to look like. But then we can also say, well, what do we think 2021 is going to look like in 2022, 2023? We projected out about 5 years and said, all right, based on that, is there anything we should do today to optimize your tax situation? And we can now do that in the context of, and if Biden is elected and the campaign promise of repealing Trump tax cuts goes into effect in a couple of years, what will we wish we had done? Now, we're not taking any action yet because a lot of these decisions you've got until 12/31, but we said, let's start getting ready to do a Roth conversion, a bigger Roth conversion this year than we might otherwise do because tax rates might be going up. Now, don't hear me saying, well, take all these actions based on speculation of what might happen. No. It's just, we built a tax analysis and said, yeah, it makes sense to do about $80,000 of a Roth conversion. However, if we're concerned about tax rates going up and that seems a little more likely, maybe instead of 80,000, we should do 150 because that puts you at the top of this limit, and we should consider doing $150,000 Roth conversion. If we do that, here's where we would take the dollars from in your IRA. We'd convert these dollars from your IRA into a Roth, and this is how we'd invest it. And there was actually some preparation that we needed to do. In this case, we needed to get the Roth IRA open. We needed to get one account moved so that as soon as we know the final result of the election, we can instantly make that change and do that Roth conversion. We also did the math on how much withholdings would there need to be. So even though we don't know the result of the election, it looks like it's going a certain way. And if you're not sitting down with your certified financial planner talking about whether there should be any actions you take within your tax planning for this year, you need to do that. That's got to be an action item. So right now for these folks, it was, all right, we're going to get the paperwork to make this change in your IRA, open up a Roth IRA. We're going to conditionally just prepare ourselves that we're going to do this much of a Roth conversion, withholding this much, and we set up an appointment for the first week in December where we will then know who's in office and we can decide whether we want to do 80,000 Roth conversion or 150,000. So the first one is you might want to consider doing Roth conversion or any other tax planning for 2020. Maybe not finalize it right now because the election results are not final, but at least get things in a position where you can execute it quickly. Roth conversions, they need to be done. They need to be done by December 31st, okay? So that is a hard deadline. So that's the first one, Roth conversion or other tax planning for 2021. The second thing, and this is sort of connected to it, is what tax planning do you need to be considering for the future, for the long term? And so to me, I think we know enough right now to say if you were teetering between contributing to pre-tax or Roth, you got to flip that to Roth, in my opinion. Now, need to make that decision in the context of your overall financial plan. But if it was even close, based on what we're seeing unfolding with the election results, you probably tip that jump ball to Roth right now. If you're funding IRA versus Roth, if it's close, I'd tip that to Roth, is my sense, is my gut based on what we're seeing. So really, both 1 and 2 here, should you do a Roth conversion or make any other changes for 2020? Or should you change the trajectory of your tax planning for 2021 and beyond? Both of those deal with tax planning, and I'd encourage you for both of those, sit down with your certified financial planner. Make sure you're doing proactive tax planning and make sure you're taking the right steps. The final one, the third one, is you might want to consider reviewing your estate plan, your estate documents with your certified financial planner. Not necessarily time to meet with your attorney yet and redraw things. However, one of the very underappreciated financial benefits, you would say, currently in the tax code is a very, very high estate tax exemption. That's right, you can pass away with a big estate and not have to pay estate taxes. And right now, that means a lot of people just have a normal will, maybe revocable living trust, haven't really had to worry about doing creative estate planning because the exemption amounts are $11 million and you can carry that forward. If you didn't use it, your spouse can use it. And so that's pretty generous right now. And those exemption amounts have a sunset provision, meaning if action isn't taken to extend them, then they are going to stop and revert back to the old exemption amounts, which are much, much, much less. Now, there was a question, when it seemed more likely or more possible, I shouldn't say likely, that he was losing the polls from the very beginning, but if it seemed more possible that Donald Trump was in office, maybe just something to think about or be aware of. But now that it's seeming more likely Donald Trump will not be in office, and more likely then that these current estate tax exemption amounts will likely sunset and revert back to much lower exemption amounts, you need to sit down with your certified financial planner, review your estate plan, and basically say, should I make a change if Biden's officially in office and if these estate laws are officially rolled back? Am I going to be impacted or not? And it's really looking at your overall net worth, your life insurance, and other things, and saying, well, what would the exemption amount sunset back to? Are your assets at a level where that would threaten that level? Okay, and so it's not time to work with your attorney. It is time to work with your certified financial planner and have that discussion. So those are 3 big takeaways. They're all connected to taxes in a way. Okay, so make sure your certified financial planner is collaborating with your CPA and providing overall tax planning in the context of your comprehensive financial planning. And if I could add a fourth area that you should at least be talking about or thinking about, we've had an unbelievable surge in the stock market since the election. We haven't had a surge like this I believe, since 1982. Not an election year, a surge as far as how much the stock market's gone up in 3 or 4 consecutive days. We haven't had that happen since 1982. It's pretty unbelievable. And I believe a lot of that's based on stimulus hopes and stimulus potential. And so if you have money that should be invested for the long term that isn't, you've kept it safe because you've been unsure and you've wanted to wait until after the election. That's the fourth idea. We know enough right now. You've got to sit down with your certified financial planner and start figuring out a plan to get that money invested for the long term. And again, I wouldn't just put it one foul swoop into the market. And I really believe in a momentum strategy right now with the market being so high. However, we know enough to say that, well, listen, a big crash or whatever didn't really happen, especially with all the uncertainty. And as the stock market's pricing in what it expects will happen, dollars that have just been sitting there that are actually for the long term have been missing out. So work with your CFP to get a plan for that. If you don't have a CFP, you can always contact a member of my team. Find us online, corehorn.com. That's Corehorn with a K, or wisemoneyshow.com. You can find us there as well, or always send us an email, info@corehorn.com. All right, there you have it. Go out and take your next wise step in your financial life.